I then get my Sustanon vial out of the pack and I pop it in my armpit. This might seem weird, but what I'm doing is I'm warming the testosterone up to match my body temperature. The same reason I don't want my muscles to be cold is the reason I don't want the testosterone to be cold when it enters my system. If the testosterone comes into my system at a different temperature from my muscles, it's just more of a shock and it can be more painful. So I leave it in there for a little while I get other things ready. When the vial's been in there for a few minutes, I take it out and I crack the top off. This is one of the ones that are one use only, obviously, and you break the glass. I then take my syringe and the drawing up needle, which is the bigger, thicker one, and I just pull all the tea out. It doesn't matter that there's a bunch of air in there, we'll get rid of that later. Then I switch to the injection needle, which is the 23 gauge. This is where I want to make sure most of the air is out. So I point the needle facing up, I push the syringe, I tap it a few times to get the air bubbles up there, and then I'll actually keep pushing it until I see some of the testosterone coming out of the top. I'm not too worried about wasting it. You know, I still get the effects even if it's a bit less than 1 mil. What this does do is, I make sure that there's no air in the needle itself, but also the testosterone, because it's an oily substance, it acts as a bit of a lubricant. So I actually want a little bit of it on the tip there so it slides in easier and more comfortable. As you can see, the needle it's cut off at kind of an angle, right? So what the nurse told me is that if I am injecting into my thigh, which is the way she taught me, is that you want the kind of slanted bit facing up, kind of like the roof of a house angle, right? Okay, then we're ready to go. So the nurse taught me to do my shot in the thigh, and most of the people I know do their shots in the thigh, and I highly encourage you to do that. The reason I didn't do it in the thigh was the first time I ever did my shot was in front of the nurse as they were coaching me through it. I did my thigh in the shot, my shot in my thigh as she told me to, and then I was limping for 4 days. It was incredibly painful after the shot. The shot itself didn't feel it, but after I pulled the needle out, I couldn't put weight on my leg. It was incredibly painful, and I'm not entirely sure why, although I have a theory. I think that my muscle wasn't completely relaxed. Even if you're sitting with your leg on the ground and you don't think you're using your muscle, you might still be. Like if you try and sit on the ground now and poke your muscle, it might not actually be totally limp. Like if I try poke my bicep now, it feels just totally squishy. But if I try and poke my thigh, even though I think I'm relaxing it, it's actually still a bit tense. And so I wonder if I was tensing my thigh a little bit.
Divide your leg by thirds using your hands. So you place your hand here and here. Next, draw an imaginary midline down the center of your thigh, and you want to go lateral to this line. This right here is your vastus lateralis muscle. This is what we consider the safe zone.
First time I did my own shot of Sustanon, I did it in my thigh and then I couldn't walk for 4 days. And so it just kind of freaked me out. So I decided to do it on my glute, and I did do my research, and this is what I found, right? So the dorsogluteal muscle is a muscle that can receive testosterone injections. So you've got your glutes here, and what you have to be really aware of is there's a thing called a sciatic nerve, which is basically the nerve that runs from the bottom of your spine down to your foot. It's actually quite big at its thickest. I think it's like 2 centimeters wide. That's almost a full inch. It's quite large. If you injure the sciatic nerve, you can just be in pain for the rest of your life. And so if you are injecting into your glute, you draw a line from basically the top of your butt crack out to your leg. And that's actually halfway up your glute muscle area. Your glutes actually go a lot higher than you think they do, and then bisect that by running straight down kind of in the middle. And then that top outer quadrant is really the only safe zone.
I'm gonna actually do it in this glute, in the upper region of my glute. So what she did is she drew on Sharpie with me of the line that goes across, the line that goes down, and then she drew a circle. And where you do your injection is in the circle, but above the dotted line.
Sanitize that area with an alcohol swab, and then what I do is I lie down and I'll actually poke the muscle. Even though I'm lying down, I am still twisting around. Some people do this standing up, and I don't understand. That seems to me like, I don't know, I couldn't self-inject in my butt standing up because it has to be totally relaxed. So I poke the muscle and really make sure it's actually not engaged at all. To be clear, I did run this by my doctor. I said, hey, can I self-inject in the glute? And they basically said, we can't be held responsible. Like, we have taught you to inject into your thigh. So they do the Reandron shots in the glute, which is why I had gotten shots in the glute before. And that's like the Reandron, big as needle, like massive vial, 3 mil. Still though, it'd only be a day that would be sore and then I'd be fine the next day. So I poke my butt, make sure the muscles relaxed, and then I just syringe in, and this is the actual self-injecting speed. Testosterone is suspended in a liquid. This one is suspended in peanut oil. If you have peanut allergies, tell your doctor and don't just go sticking Sustanon into your body, because it's just liquid peanuts, most of it, right? So it's a really slow injection, which is fine. I don't pull the skin tight or pinch it up. The glute is such a cushy area that I don't feel the need to. My doctor did in the thigh injection show me to kind of just hold, not really pushing the skin together or pulling it apart, but just kind of holding it, steadying it basically so it doesn't wobble around for the thigh injection. And then I just put the testosterone in my butt. The other site you can inject into is the ventrogluteal muscle, which is actually like your hip, kind of your side of your thigh. No one's ever shown me how to do that, and I don't know anyone who injects in there, but apparently it's quite a safe space to do it. Again, you'd want to make sure that you're not hitting any bones. Like, just with this stuff, get your doctor or your nurse to show you. And if they're not sure about something, then like, don't just DIY it, right? Don't just go off and do your own shit, because if you hit something you're not meant to, like, that's just a massive bummer for everyone. I'll inject it generally right before I go to sleep, because it's not super comfortable to sit on your butt right after you've done the injection, even though it's quite high. So you're not actually sitting on the injection site itself, right? It's like a little higher, but you're kind of putting pressure in that area. So I tend to just do my jab and then go straight to sleep. I'll just sleep on my stomach for a night, just like face plant. And then in the morning, it's fine. I barely feel it. I actually sometimes forget I've done that, and I bump it and I'm like, I feel like I have a bruise. I'm like, oh yeah, literally my testosterone shot I did the night before. So if someone's like, oh, butt's a great place to inject, it's just a big cushy thing, please do not inject anywhere near your sciatic nerve. It would just be so sad if you were to injure it.